Hey everybody, welcome to the Obsidian Paranormal Podcast. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Myron.
And on today's episode, we will be discussing our investigation of the old 76 house, which is a tavern in Tappan, New York.
This one has a history tied to the Revolutionary War, specifically with Benedict Arnold and George Washington. And it's also pretty close to Sleepy Hollow.
Our hotel was actually located in Sleepy Hollow. We didn't know it when we booked it, but when we were checking in, the staff there did tell us that they also had some haunted happenings. So that was pretty cool that we instinctively chose one of the haunted hotels in Sleepy Hollow, New York.
And although we didn't investigate it, we did keep the voice recorder going all night. So
yeah,
kind of an investigation-ish thing.
And that's something that we do often when we have to travel out of town that necessitates us getting a hotel room is wherever we stay, we'll leave a recording device. We did that at the Shanley, actually, where we had the camera and a voice recorder next to the bed while we slept. Most of the time, we just catch one of us snoring. I'm not going to say who, but sometimes we do catch some disembodied voices near us while we're sleeping.
After we checked in at the hotel, we went to the old 76 house for dinner.
Yeah, we wanted to get a lay of the land, and also we were hungry, and the food there was, oh my God, so good. They were doing like a taste of Tappan, so there was like a special menu, and everything that we had was absolutely amazing.
One of the more interesting things on the menu that I had to try was a beer that uses the same recipe that they used when George Washington was there. And it's one of the beers that he actually drank. I will say very good.
And one of the things that you may not know about Myron is he has to try interesting, odd concoctions wherever we go. So if there's a new Oreo cookie flavor that comes out, we know that Myron's going to try it, even if it's like, I don't know, like sneaker flavored. He'd be like, I got to try this at least once. So that was definitely a must-have.
Although there's been a few times where you've tried some interesting things too, like in Gettysburg, the peanut butter soup.
Oh, yeah.
That's something I don't think I would have tried.
Yeah, but peanut butter soup, come on. I had to try that once. It was okay. I don't think I'd order it again, but we'll get to that when we get to our Gettysburg episode, which will be coming up in a few episodes. One of the great things about this particular day that we investigated was they had live music playing that night. And when there's a band and there's people who are interested in it and they get everybody up and dancing and singing along, it revs up the energy of the place. So we were really excited that the band kind of warmed the place up for our investigation, that we could kind of ride on some of that energy. Of course, the band was done by the time we started our investigation, so there was no sound interference, but it did get the energy moving. And it was a good band, too, so win-win.
And it's funny, too, because while we're having dinner, our waiter actually was telling us some of the claims of activity there, because he's also really into the paranormal, and even asked if he could stay with us and investigate for a little while, which we let him do for, what was it, like 20 minutes, half hour, I think, and then he had to leave.
Yeah.
Some of the claims of activity are a gentleman dressed in colonial clothing, wearing a white shirt, standing by table 11. I don't know why I always think 10, but it's table 11. Coins are found appearing out of thin air and sliding across the room around table 2, which that area is also supposed to be very active. Upstairs and in the kitchen, there's reports of knocking, bangs, and apparitions. The bar has a lot of apparitions of soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so rich in history, which we're going to be doing a history lesson in just a little bit, that almost every part of this tavern, which is one of the oldest taverns in America still in operation, that really the kitchen, the bar, the dining room, the basement, even upstairs where there was a residence, had some sort of claims of activity, specifically apparitions showing up and, you know, really just that tying into the history of the place.
So, Jillian, why don't you tell us about the history?
Yeah, there's a lot of history. So, first off, the tavern was built in 1668. So that puts it as, like I said, one of the oldest taverns still in operation in America. But what makes this tavern so unique is it had direct involvement in the American Revolution and direct involvement in America earning its independence from Britain. I feel it's really significant that this episode is coming out in July of 2026, right after we celebrated the 250th birthday of America, because without this tavern, we might not have had 250 years as an independent nation. Okay, so like Myron had mentioned, George Washington often drank and had meals at this tavern. So that's what makes it so integral into the happenings of Westchester County, New York. So right up the road from this is going to be West Point, and that's really significant in this history. So General at the time, George Washington, his chief provisioner, Samuel Frances, and every general of the West Wing of the Continental Haven dined at this tavern during the Revolutionary War. What makes this so significant as well is not just that they ate there, because, I mean, here in New England, you can't cross the road without somebody saying that George Washington, shoot his horse at this barn, or George Washington, relieved himself on that tree. This tavern served as a prison for the Revolution's most notorious spy, Major John Andre. So that's why the Old 76 house is often referred to as Andre's prison. It was never a place of incarceration for anyone before, nor has it been used as a prison since. But because Major John Andre was so significant and he was jailed there, it's still noted as Andre's prison. So, Major Andre was a British officer. He corresponded with the infamous American trader Benedict Arnold. Arnold supplied Andre with a map of West Point, which was a very important military point in the whole war, and still is. So, Arnold gives Andre the map and gave Andre General George Washington's War Council meeting. So he's passing him all the stuff that he shouldn't have as a British soldier. So Benedict Arnold also gave Andre papers that allowed him to go through different militia checkpoints and an alias of John Anderson to allow him free travel in the American occupied areas. So on September 23rd of 1780, so we're like right in the thick of the war now, Andre was returning to the British lines, which is where he belonged, when he was stopped by the New York militia. The men, their spidey sense went off. Something wasn't right, so they started to interrogate Major Andre. And then that led to them searching him, and they discovered the map of West Point, and he was immediately arrested. So, General Washington then received the confiscated papers, and it became clear that the American cause had been betrayed. So, in a general order on September 26th, General George Washington announced that he was, quote, taking, quote, proper measure to unravel fully so hellish a plot, unquote. Washington ordered Benedict Arnold's arrest, but Benedict Arnold had already reached the safety of British lines. But Major John Andre Washington organized a court of 14 to examine the case of his, because he was already captured and he was in prison at the 76 Tavern. And the board decided that Major Andre should be executed as a spy. So General Washington accepted their determination, the council's determination, and he offered the British the opportunity to save Andre's life because he was well loved by the British Army. And General Washington said, "We will spare his life if you give us Benedict Arnold." They refused. They thought that if they exchanged prisoners like that, it would dissuade others from deserting the American cause and coming over to the British cause. So as a result, George Washington ordered Major John Andre's execution. So he was marched up the hill from the tavern where he was being held up to the gallows. And at noon on October 2nd, 1780, he was hanged. And his final words as he was meeting the executioner's noose was, "All I request, gentlemen, is that while I acknowledge the propriety of my sentence, you will bear me witness that I die like a brave man." So, in 1820, his remains were brought to rest in Westminster Abbey in London. He is regarded in Britain as a hero. Benedict Arnold died in London and was shunned by friend and foe alike. Now, Washington was said to have been at the tavern when he got the news that Arnold had betrayed the country. And Myron, you know the story of that one, where there was something significant.
Yeah, they were actually at one time. Benedict Arnold and George Washington's were good friends, and he was pretty unhappy about the whole thing when he found out about it. So there was a picture that he had that he flipped upside down of Benedict Arnold, and it's still there. Well, I think that's the original picture. I don't remember. But there is a picture drawing of Benedict Arnold that was flipped upside down on one of the mantles there.
Yeah, and you can see that on our website. It is not a typo or an error that there's an upside down picture on our website, but it is because of how betrayed George Washington felt by his friend Benedict Arnold. We've definitely talked about this in the past, about how when there's an event that happens that is filled with strong emotions, it definitely leaves a mark that can be like a residual haunting, or leaves a mark where emotions were so heightened that it creates almost like a portal to paranormal activity and paranormal experiences. So I feel like how betrayed General, and then, of course, spoiler alert, our first president of the United States, George Washington, felt by his friend being a traitor, it left an indelible mark on the tavern. And I think that's why it's been so active throughout the years.
And also probably the fact that Andre probably wasn't too happy during his stay there.
Yeah, nobody likes to get caught doing stuff. So
maybe some people do. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Don't want to yuck their yum, but sure. So with all of that history, we could not wait to get started with the investigation. So one of the things that we did, I wanted to try an experiment where I meditated for about 20 minutes to just kind of get a feel of the property, talk to my own guides, see if I could connect with any of the spirits, and like psychically introduce myself and see if that maybe got us some more physical evidence.
And we did this in the beginning at table 2 with our waiter still with us at this point.
Yeah. And you noticed something interesting when you were doing the evidence review.
Yeah. On the video, while we're doing this, or the three of us were sitting at a table, which is table 2, we were all sitting there quiet. You had your eyes closed because you were doing the meditation thing. My eyes were open, whatever. And our waiter who was with us When I look at the video the entire time, I think he blinked once. And this is like 20 minutes of us sitting there doing this, and he only blinked one time.
I have a theory about that, because if this property is as active as the claims of activity have it, maybe the people who live there, work there, are constantly exposed to all of that paranormal activity. Maybe they're somehow affected by that environment. And so, like, maybe he can meditate with his eyes open and not, he wasn't crying or experiencing any distress with that. And when I use mirrors to scry, one of the techniques that I use is to look into the mirror as long as possible without blinking. And when I do that, when I'm done with like a 3-minute session, I am snot, tears all down my face. It's not pretty. But maybe because he works there and he's exposed to that energy all the time, that like he vibrates at a different level. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's the only time I've seen that so far in any of our investigations, and it was bizarre.
Yeah.
So then he had to leave. And after he left, we continued the investigation, which is me and Jillian, except for the few times that the owner came down and offered us snacks, which we appreciate because they were good.
Oh my God. So good. He came down and he's just like, hey, you guys want some dessert from the kitchen? And who are we to say no to free dessert from the kitchen?
Well, I think we did say no at first. And then it was like 2 or 3 times later, him asking that, we finally said yes because, the stuff there is good.
It really was good. And he was so hospitable, so nice. And it was just icing on an already awesome investigation cake. And it happened to be dessert too. So the rest of the investigation continued on like most investigations. And for this one in particular, I don't recall anything happening in real time that was significant. I think there were like a few times where I asked, are you speaking? And, nothing really of significance. But I think where we got a lot of our evidence was upon reviewing everything after the fact.
So normally when we do the investigations, we don't usually catch too much evidence as far as pictures go. Most of it is audio and video, but at this particular investigation, we got an interesting picture. I had taken one of Jillian in the bar, and there's something on her face, but we can't tell exactly what it is.
Yeah, we have it up on our website, and it's not like there's a pimple on my face. It is an object that does not appear on any of the video of me.
Or any other pictures.
Right. It looks like, I want to say, it looks like a horn is curling from my forehead down to my cheekbone. What do you think it looks like?
One of the things that I noticed that it looks like, to me, almost like a cat paw reaching out. Like, it's hard to describe, but almost like a cat paw reaching out of her face, reaching up to her glasses, and you see what looks like 3 claws. That's one of the things.
Yeah, there's, of course, obsidianparanormal.org. You can go to the investigations tab, and this picture is under the old 76 house investigation. But one of the things we just discovered recently is that there is a claim of activity that some of the soldiers of the Revolutionary War hang out in that bar in the afterlife. There's apparitions that appear. And Myron was looking up pictures of Major General Andre. I keep on wanting to make him a general. Major Andre. We thought maybe that could be like a superimposed image of an apparition of those white wigs that they wore at the time. And they had like those really elaborate curls, that maybe it was one of either Major Andre or one of the colonial soldiers walking in front of me, and it catches like the shadow of a wig.
Yeah, we really have no idea what it is.
What we're going to do is we'll repost the picture and post it with a picture of Major John Andre and the curl of his wig and leave a comment. Let us know. Email us your thoughts at obsidianparanormal@gmail.com. So the last 2 episodes, Myron has been teasing me about the evidence that we've captured while I've been sitting on a closed toilet lid. And one of the things that we do when we're investigating is we keep our recorders on throughout the entire investigation. So on this investigation, Myron had his recorder on while he was relieving himself in the bathroom. Now, I'm not going to post this one on our website or YouTube, but we believe we captured an EVP while he was peeing, an EVP while you were peeing, ha ha ha. And we're not really sure what it says, but we're pretty sure we caught it.
Well, to me, it sounds like it's saying, who's this? Or who's next?
I hear something like, can you help me? Something like that. So we're definitely disagreeing, but it was not the sound of urination. It was definitely a voice. But for the privacy and for sanitary reasons, we will not share that clip. But I think it's interesting. What else did we capture on this one?
We got what sounds like a female voice saying, help me.
That was in the kitchen, right?
I believe so. And then we also got another female voice while Jillian and I were sitting at a table and we were discussing some of the decor in the place. And we got a female voice, which we can't make out. Neither of us can make out what's being said.
That one we'll publish on our YouTube channel, but we were looking at a kayak that was hanging from the ceiling. And I think you had asked, what type of boat is that? Or I said, is that a kayak? And then there's a whispered female voice seemingly answering us.
Well, that's basically it for that investigation. And we would definitely love to go back.
I mean, even if we just went for another dinner, because that food was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is a really interesting coincidence and an aha moment. But our next investigation episode that we'll be discussing is also tied to Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, that episode is going to be on the Leffingwell House Museum.
That's in Norwich, Connecticut, and we actually did 2 separate investigations of that one. So we'll be discussing both of those investigations in that episode. And I just think it's really significant that Benedict Arnold, his father, used to drink in the tavern that was in the Leffingwell house. So,
and this wasn't planned that we did back-to-back investigations about that had to do with Benedict Arnold.
Right. So
definitely an aha thing.
For sure. But new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Thank you so much to all of our loyal listeners who tune in week after week. Please like, subscribe, share this with your friends. It's how we grow. Thank you so much for taking a walk down history and the investigations with us.
And also thank you to the Old 76 House for having us.
Absolutely. There was a great investigation with a great host. So until our next investigation in 2 weeks, stay spooky.